Detailed class was taken on tracheostomy, its indications, contraindication, the types, steps of tracheostomy, and also another class was taken on tracheostomy tubes. So these two were covered, and today I will explain postoperative care of tracheostomy and also the complications of tracheostomy. If you are not interested in the post-op care or tube and also the stoma, tracheostoma, if you are not interested in that, it is better not to do a tracheostomy. It is that much important. And also for exam purpose, you will get a short note on decannulation. Postoperative care, especially decannulation, the causes of difficult decannulation, and also the complications are usually asked as short note, and also in Viva along with tracheostomy tubes you will be asked the complications of tracheostomy. So that is important in both your clinical practice and also for examination purpose. We know that tracheostomy is usually done between second and third tracheal ring. So this is thyroid cartilage, cricoid, first, second, third and fourth tracheal ring. So between these two, between this first and second and third tracheal ring, we do the tracheostomy, and the tube is kept between second and third usually. Okay. So I'll explain the post-op care under various heading. The first one is equipment, care of equipment and the environment. It is always better to keep the patient in the ICU at least in the initial few hours, post-operative hours. If possible, you can keep the patient in the first post-operative day in the ICU itself with a tracheostomy kit nearby, because at any time there can be a chance of obstruction of this tracheostomy tube. So a tracheostomy kit should be available, and also oxygen, suction and monitors with all parameters, and also the alarm set. That is very important. And second comes supervision and monitoring. Supervision and monitoring. Okay. So each patient should be assessed on an individual basis by the treating doctor and nursing team. Okay, and it is better to keep a chart of the type of indications of tracheostomy, the type of tracheostomy tube, and also the length and the inner diameter and the outer diameter of the tracheostomy tube in a chart, and keep it near the patient bed. So it will be easy for emergency situation while changing the tracheostomy tube. That is important. And also this monitoring is of very much important in case of children, pediatric cases. What all things you have to monitor? You have to monitor the heart rate, plus or minus if needed. Along with heart rate, go for a continuous cardiac monitoring. Then respiratory rate, blood pressure, temperature, pulse oximeter, oxygen saturation, the work of breathing, and also the behavior of the patient. That is important. And the third is humidification. Why humidification? Because if we inspire through the nose, the inspired air will be humidified and filtered. Filtered air will go to the lungs. We are bypassing the nose. We are breathing through the tracheostoma. So there is no filtering of the inspired air. So that will cause, what will happen if there is no humidification? It is not coming through this. It is coming through this, through the tracheostoma. So there is chance of crusting of the trachea and also near the lungs. Chance of crusting is more. Okay, that is exposed to these areas, trachea and bronchus are exposed to the environment, and there is no filtration. So a humidifier should be either you can attach an HME What is HME? And heat moisture exchanger. Okay, either you can put in heat moist exchange or you can use all these things. A tracheostomy bib filter. It is like an HME only, but in an HME we use filter paper, and this tracheostomy bib filter we use foams. So both these, while inspiring, the moisture will be absorbed by this filter paper or the foam, whatever it is, and while expiring it will give moisture to that. Okay, that is a basic principle, and the paper has to be changed as needed. And also you can use a heated humidifier or this tracheostomy bib filter is very useful in case of pediatric age group. And in adult you can also use ultrasonic nebulizers or steam tent. If all these are not available, just keep a boiling kettle in the room. All this suction. The suction will remove the mucus, will maintain a patent airway, and also avoid tracheostomy block. And through the tracheostoma we have to insert the suction catheter. So if you are not careful, there is chance of damaging the trachea and injury to the tracheal walls. That can cause excessive bleeding or so many other problems. So extra care should be taken while suctioning. The number one is correct sized suction catheter should be used. How can we calculate that? So the size, roughly the size is the size of the tracheostomy tube in millimeter into 3, the whole divided by 2. Okay, so the size of tracheostomy tube in millimeter into 3 by 2. So if it is number 8 size, 8 into 3, 24 by 2. So that will be 12. Okay, so care should be taken to use correct size suction catheter. Number 2, do not suck while inserting. So close the suction opening at the time of inserting the tube, and while taking it out, rotate and take it out and give suction. And the suction catheter should stay within the tracheostomy tube. It should not go beyond that. Okay, so you should have an idea of the length of the tracheostomy tube. Mark the length on the suction catheter and put it accordingly so that the damage will not happen. And also do not suck more than 10 seconds. At a time suck only for 5 to 10 seconds, and after that take it out. And if you want to do again, do that. But at a stretch, do not give suction for prolonged more than 10 seconds. By doing all this, you can avoid injury to the trachea. Also, the routine use of normal or hypotonic saline and ringer lactate while suctioning should be avoided. There is no evidence to support this. Okay, and if secretions are very thick and or it is stimulating the cuff reflex, thick secretions stimulating the cuff reflex of the patient, then only instill that into the tracheostomy tube immediately prior to suctioning. Okay, only prior to the procedure instill 1 or 2 drops of this normal or hypotonic saline or ringer lactate. If you suspect very thick secretions or it causes irritation to the patient and causes cough, otherwise don't use it. And also while doing suction, change the color of secretions. Usually you know the normal color of secretions. If there is any change or if there is blood tinge, then it should be managed accordingly. So that is all about suctioning. Then next one is the suction tracheostomy tube change. Okay. Usually it will take around 5 to 7 days for the formation of stoma. So it is better not to take the outer tube for at least 7 days. If there is clear signs of obstruction, then you can take it out, or the outer tube also. If not, you can change the inner tubes only. Okay, and the inner tube should be taken out. First you remove the lock, take out the inner cannula and put it in a bowl containing hydrogen peroxide for minimum of 1 minute. Then take it out, clean by putting a brush or using a cotton tipped applicator. Remove all the secretions and everything and clean it under running tap water. And after that make it dry and reinsert. This you have to instruct whoever is taking care of the patient. Either it is a nursing care or the bystanders, whoever it is. So this has to be, the inner cannula has to be taken at least 3 or 4 times daily. So the first 2 or 3 days this inner cannula has to be taken for minimum of 4 times a day, and after that it can be paused or it can be timed accordingly, looking on the signs of obstructions. Okay, and the best time to remove the inner cannula or the outer cannula is before a meal or at least 1 hour after a meal, so that the chance of aspiration can be reduced. Okay, that is regarding the tracheostomy tube change, and along with this comes tracheostomy tie change also. This starts from the immediate post-op period. The stoma should be inspected daily, and if there is crusting, stoma means this area, the area on the skin. So that has to be inspected daily for presence of infection or color change of the skin or crusting. And if it is if there is any problem, you have to clean that area daily and remove the dressings and change the dressings. Okay. If there are signs of infection, then apply adequate antibiotic solutions, or if needed parenteral antibiotics has to be started. It is better to have 2 experienced persons present at the time of tracheostomy tie change. 7th one, feeding and nutrition. It is better to encourage oral feeds, and if the patient can't do that, start on parenteral feeding. Next is oral care. By concentrating only on this area, you should not forget this area. You should give extra oral care of oral cavity for the patient, otherwise it can be a colony of infection. Okay, that is important. And 9th one, communication. That is very important. Communication is very important. Patient cannot speak, can't make noise. So keep a bell near the patient or any electronic devices that can produce sound. That is very important. And for otherwise, if the doctor or the caretaker is near the patient, he can communicate using a pen and paper. Or in long-term cases, we can advise a one-way speaking valve which can be attached to this tracheostoma. Next, and the most important one is, where will I write it? Okay, 10th one. That is decannulation. Very important. Okay, decannulation. And in the suctioning, the ideal suction pressure is 80 to 120 millimeters of mercury or 16 to 20 kPa. Okay, 16 to 20 kilopascals, right? Or 80 to 120 millimeters of mercury. All these 10 are post-operative care of tracheostomy. And of this, decannulation is the most important. Decannulation is removing the cannula, removing the tracheostomy tube. That is decannulation. And for decannulation, there should be some basic standards to be met. Or these are the minimal criteria. That is post-operative minimum 5 to 7 days. That is the time for formation of stoma, maturation of stoma in a temporary tracheostomy. And no acute respiratory problems for the patient. Secretions. The secretions should be minimum. and we need at least 6 hours suction is needed for the patient, and also if the patient has got a strong cough reflex, then we go with the we can go for a decannulation and adequate SpO2, and patient not on mechanical ventilation and normal upper airway. There should not be any anatomical abnormalities of the upper airway or limitations of the upper airway. If all these are met, we can plan for removal of the tube. And what is the decannulation protocol? That is, first if there is cough, first deflate the cuff. Okay, deflate it. If there is no problem, the patient is happy, then go with a cuffless tracheostomy tube or a smaller tracheostomy. Okay, or if already you are using a cuffless, then change into a smaller tracheostomy tube, and after that observe the patient. If it is successful, then plug the inner tube. If there is an inner tube, remove the inner tube and use a decannulation plug and watch for 5 to 10 minutes. If it is successful, that means the decannulation plugging successful, then you wait for or watch for another 24 to 48 hours in every 2 hours. So observe for 2 hours, every 2 hours for the next 24 to 48 hours. If it is successful, you can remove the tracheostomy tube and give a strapping. Okay, if it is successful, there are two options. One, it can be successful, or it is not successful. Patient is not supporting. Okay, there can be two pathways. If it is not successful, then you have to go for an extended pathway. That is, inform the complete team of ENT, anesthesia, everything, and go for investigations and find out the cause for the extended cause for this, and along with that, keep the tracheostomy tube also. So, if it is a cuff tube, change on to a cuffless tube, deflate and go to a cuffless or a smaller tracheostomy, and plug the outer cannula, watch for 5 to 10 minutes. If no problem, then watch in every 2 hours for the next 24 to 48 hours. If it is successful, remove the tracheostomy tube, and if it is not successful, plan for an extended pathway and go with the investigations. So, if you cannot remove the tracheostomy tube, even after the purpose or the indication of tracheostomy is over, then it is called a difficult decannulation. So there are some causes for difficult decannulation. Let us see what are the causes. The causes of difficult decannulation. It's usually asked in Viva. Okay. You cannot remove the tracheostomy tube following this protocol. Then it is difficult decannulation. So the first is maybe persistence of the cause for which the tracheostomy was done. Okay, that is the first cause. Persistence of the condition for which we have done the tracheostomy. Okay. Then second, what can be? There can be granulation tissue around the tracheostoma. Okay, the tracheostomy tube pressing areas having granulation tissue. Okay, so that is second one. So then you have to go and remove the granulation tissue. The third is tracheal edema. Okay, so around the tracheostoma there can be edema. Then there can be subglottis stenosis, especially if it is, I told you, a complication of high tracheostomy is tracheal subglottis stenosis. So that can be a cause of this difficult decannulation. The next one is an incurving of the tracheal wall. and causing and incurving of this tracheal wall is curved inwards, and that causes obstruction after removal of the tracheostomy tube. Okay, then is tracheomalacia, especially happens in cases of long-standing tracheostomy. Then what? Then there can be psychological dependence to the tracheostomy tube. Especially happens in case of children. Psychological dependence. Patient is too much dependent on the tracheostomy, and they will think that after removal they cannot cope with the normal breathing. Dependence. And there can also be a physiological dependence. What is physiological dependence? Physiological dependence. What is that? There is inability to tolerate the pressure of the upper airway, because this lungs was very happy. There is no problem with that. There is no extra effort to take the lung, because air will come through this and air will go out that. And if it is in the upper airway, there is resistance of the upper airway, there is resistance of the vocal cord. All these the lungs has to do some work, because it was leisurely coping with the tracheostomy. Now after removal of that, it cannot tolerate this overload, extra work. So that is physiological dependence. That is also another reason for a difficult decantation. So all these 8 causes you have to remember. Okay. And next is complications of tracheostomy. We can divide that into immediate, intermediate and delayed or late complications. And all these complications happen in pediatric cases, are more cases, and the obese, then head injury patients, and immunocompromised and burns patient. Okay, the pediatric group, obese, immunocompromised, burn and head injury. These 5 categories are more prone for complications during a tracheostomy. So of the immediate at the time of surgery, one is bleeding. As soon as you open the anterior jugular vein, and inferior thyroid vein, these are the commonest site of bleeding in case of tracheostomy. You can also get bleeding from thyroid isthmus, and also from sometime a thyroidema artery will cause alarming bleeding. And second is apnea. As soon as you open the incision, you put the incision and put the tracheal dilator, the patient can go for apnea. Why it is so? Because since long term patient is having a respiratory obstruction, so this hypoxia and hypercapnia are acting as respiratory stimulants. They are stimulating the respiratory center. So after putting an incision on the trachea, there is sudden washout of carbon dioxide and there is oxygenation. So that the patient can go, that stimulation of the respiratory center is washed out, so there can be an apnea. So that you can do immediately. One is you can give inhalation of carbogen, that is 95% of oxygen with 5% of carbon dioxide, carbogen. Or if there is a breathing bag, you can re-breathe into that carbon dioxide. Or if it is, these 2 methods are not available, there is no chance for that, you just close the tracheostomy. If there is apnea, just close the tracheostomy opening and keep it there for 5 to 10 seconds. Close it. And sometimes the patient, the apnea will go and the patient will start breathing. So that is regarding apnea. Then if there is we are injuring the apical pleura or the lung tissue, it can go for a pneumothorax or a pneumomediastinum. This happens especially in a struggling patient in pediatric age group, etc., and also obese and short neck. And this can be avoided if you are giving adequate extension and adequate sedation and looking for the anatomical landmarks. Then vocal cord palsy, how it happens? By injury to the recurrent laryngeal nerve. then aspiration of secretions as well as blood can happen. False passage. You are not going into the trachea, you are going into the tissue planes here. Then it is a false passage. So always after doing a tracheostomy, you have to look, listen and feel. Remember these three. Look for the respiratory movement, look into the monitors. In the monitor, look for SpO2, the pulse rate and the respiratory rate. And listen to the breath sounds. And also feel the air blast. Keep a finger over here. Feel the air blast. So look, listen and feel. That is important to avoid a false passage. If there is respiratory obstruction, if it is going to a false passage, there will be signs of respiratory obstruction. And the early stages, there will be usually respiratory obstruction will cause an tachypnea, tachycardia, then fall of SpO2. And in later stages, only there will be bradycardia and cyanosis. So you have to look for that, you have to listen for that, and also you have to feel the air blast. Then you can avoid false passage. Then what are the intermediate complications? These are the common intermediate complications. Bleeding can occur. As I already told, the anterior jugular vein is there, inferior thyroid vein is there. So it can be a reactionary or secondary hemorrhage. What is this reactionary and secondary hemorrhage? That was told along with my class in adenotonsillectomy. So what is that? You can go and see the video on tonsillectomy, complications of tonsillectomy. Then displacement of the tube. This tube can get displaced or there can be tube obstruction. I already told there are signs of tube obstruction. Early obstruction, features of early tube obstruction is tachycardia, tachypnea, fall in SpO2 and reduced breath sounds. And the late stages or late signs of airway obstruction is cyanosis and bradycardia. You should not wait for the late stages. As soon as you find out that there is tube obstruction by the look, listen and feel method, then immediately give suction. Remove the inner cannula if there, then give suction, and if it is not getting relieved by that, then change the tracheostomy tube for the obstruction. Then there can be subcutaneous emphysema. That is, you can, while palpating you feel crepitus. That is a typical feel is there for subcutaneous emphysema because of two reasons. One, you have given a very tight skin sutures, and second, your tracheal opening is too big. So if you are given the skin sutures are very tight, you can remove the skin sutures, and even after that this subcutaneous emphysema is not getting relieved even after 8 to 20 hours, then change the tracheostomy tube to a bigger size, to higher size tracheostomy tube. Okay, that is the treatment of that. Pneumothorax or pneumomediastinum has to be picked up. It is ideal to go for an X-ray chest immediately after a tracheostomy. Then you can find out the early signs of pneumothorax or pneumomediastinum. Then crusting, if there is crusting, put some hypotonic or normal saline or Ringerl active solution, or soda bicarbonate drops also you can instill and give suction for that. And tracheitis and stoma cellulitis can be avoided by daily inspection of the stoma and adequate care. Infections, if present, give on parenteral antibiotic, and if you are correcting the infection timely, then it will not go for other complications like atelectasis and lung abscess. Wound infections and granulations are also other intermediate complication, and all these can be corrected or treated adequately, timely, by daily or correct post-operative care that I have already mentioned. Okay, then what are the late complications? These are the late complications. One is hemorrhage, and this hemorrhage can be due to granulation tissue around the tracheostomy tube, or it can be due to posteriorly lies the innominate artery. So innominate artery blowout. Okay, and this innominate artery blowout occurs because this tracheostomy tube is impinging on the posterior wall. So in that case, it carries around 90% of mortality. It's a very fatal complication, and to some extent you can correct it by giving a constant and direct pressure of the anterior wall of tracheostoma. Then another one is laryngeal stenosis. This area gets stenosed because of perichondritis of the cricoid cartilage. And tracheal stenosis is another complication, stenosis of the trachea. Then tracheoesophageal fistula. There are two fistulas can happen. One is posteriorly go to the esophagus, causing a tracheoesophageal fistula, or it can come anteriorly causing a tracheocutaneous fistula. Okay. In both these cases is due to one putting in not adequate or oversized tracheostomy tube, or we are not deflating the cuff for longer period of time. Okay, so because of that you can go posteriorly causing a tracheoesophageal fistula or anteriorly causing a tracheocutaneous fistula. So that is why I told you to put correct size tracheostomy tube and also deflate the cuff of the tracheostomy tube at least for 5 minutes in every 1 hour. Okay, so that you can avoid this tracheocutaneous as well as tracheoesophageal as well as tracheocutaneous fistula. Difficult decannulation is already described. Then keloid or unsightly scars. Then corrosion of the tube. Especially in a long-standing tracheostomy, we are not caring the tracheostomy tube. This can corrode and it can break and can go and causing breakage of the tube in situ. Okay, so all these are the complications. I described about the postoperative care and complications of tracheostomy. If any doubt, you can ask in the comment box. Thank you.